Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. And we're starting with the official Days of Play 2025 announcement. And the sale actually begins today, and it's going to last until June 11th. So the major, I would say, sale here has to do with the PlayStation hardware. Right, there's going to be a ton of games on sale, of course, so if you're interested in that, be sure to check out the PlayStation Store. I'm sure they'll be promoting it, but when we look at the hardware, the PS5 Pro is going to be $50 off, so the leaks that we heard about were actually true, but the bigger one here, I would say, is the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 digital and standard bundle are both being priced at $400. So you can buy a disc-based PS5 bundle with Black Ops 6 for $400. This is, I would say, the perfect time for anybody who's been even remotely considering buying a PS5 to do so, because as we know, there's the tariff situation kind of looming, and we don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. Sony has warned investors that they may have no choice but to increase the price of the PS5, depending on what happens with that situation. But until then, they have a stockpile of PS5s, and clearly they're going to try to take advantage of that for as long as they can. But on top of the PS5 Pro and the base PS5 being on sale, PlayStation VR 2 is going to be $50 off. You're going to get $30 off the Pulse Explore earbuds, $30 off the DualSense Edge, $20 off the Access controller, $20 off all DualSense controllers, and of course they, like I said, mentioned here, there's going to be a bunch of games going on sale. And so when it comes to PlayStation Plus, they say save on a newer upgraded PS Plus membership. Players who join PS Plus during this year's celebration can save up to 33% on select 12-month memberships. For players who are currently a PS Plus Essential or Extra member, save 33% on the remainder of your membership when upgrading to PS Plus Premium. So, not too great for PS Plus, I would say. A lot of people, I think, disappointed by that. But yeah, I just figured I would let you guys know that this is what Sony's deciding to do for the Days of Play sale. Again, it's ending June 11th. But moving on to the next topic, we have confirmation that Hideo Kojima is going to be at Summer Game Fest, which is happening very soon. Jeff Keighley says, just announced, Hideo Kojima will join us live on stage for Summer Game Fest next Friday, June 6th. And so he doesn't, say what exactly he's going to be showing up with. I think most people are going to be expecting Death Stranding 2, considering that's, launching in June. But, at the same time, people are kind of wondering what's going on with this Microsoft project he's been working on, OD. It's been a long time since we've heard anything about that, or it could just be something completely separate. We have seen that as well. So it's not surprising to hear that Kojima is going to show up, but, you do have to wonder what exactly he's going to be showing up with. Moving on to the next topic, we have another update on the next Hideo Kojima PlayStation game, Physint. This is being reported by WCCF Tech. They say here in January 2024, legendary game designer Hideo Kojima announced a new partnership with Sony to create Physint, a new tactical espionage game in the vein of Metal Gear. While Kojima's focus is currently on Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, which launches next month on PS5, the veteran developer also discussed what drove him to go back to this kind of project. Speaking to Edge magazine, he said the people's wishes for a new Metal Gear game were important in the decision. So here's the full quote. Of course, I have lots of new ideas that I want to create, but when I became sick during the pandemic, I realized that a lot of people wanted me to make something like Metal Gear. That's when I had the idea for a new espionage game. I reflected and thought the idea was good. I took it to Sony and they were incredibly supportive. We explored many options and we agreed on doing Physint. This made me think that these multi-platform projects will help the studio live on, not just through games, but in other media too. We're exploring other forms of entertainment as well. So we are a game company, but not only a game company, this is a phase 2 for Kojima Productions. So yeah, I thought that this was worth covering because it's Kojima acknowledging that, yes, Metal Gear Solid and kind of wanting to return to that and fans asking him to return to that is what inspired him to want to make this game Physint. What I find interesting is that he actually was the one who took it to Sony. I kind of thought it was the other way around. Like, I thought it was Sony maybe kind of trying to convince Kojima to do something like this, but apparently it's just something he wanted to do, and that's very exciting, right? I'm really excited for this game. It's gonna be a long time till it comes out, and probably sometime till we see it, but still, I will continue to keep you guys updated. Moving on to the next topic, we actually have news about the Order 1886, where this is being reported by Gaming Bolt, and they say the Order 1886 originally released back in 2015 exclusively for the PS4. It was a single-player title, and according to the creative director, a proposed sequel to the third-person shooter would have been even grander, featuring larger battles and even multiplayer elements. So he recently did an interview, and he said that multiplayer was originally in the works for the Order 1886 before the studio decided to actually scrap it in favor of bringing it in during the sequel. And that's one of the things we did learn about with the Order 1886, is that due to that, deadline where we got to release it in 2015, it seems like Sony wasn't willing to afford them any more time. They had to cut a bunch of stuff out of the game. The article continues saying a 10-page pitch was written for follow-ups to the Order 1886. Among the new features for the sequel would have been large-scale battles and multiplayer. Two sequels were part of the pitch, the Order 1891 and the Order 1899. The story for what would have become a trilogy was already mapped out. There were even plans to take the franchise further into the future, with the script also being ready for a story in the series taking place sometime in the 20th century. However, as we know, sequels to the Order 1886 would never be made. Back in February, Ready at Dawn's studio co-founder had spoken about how proposals for sequels were ultimately rejected by Sony, owing to the middling critical reception for the game. Despite the rejection, however, he noted that the studio ended up avoiding a bullet, since working on a sequel would have meant signing our life away, as he put it, for Ready at Dawn. So, yeah, man, I'm one of these people where, I was late to the Order 1886, but I loved a lot of what it was doing. It had issues, there's no denying that, but man, this is another one of those situations where I feel like Sony is a little bit short-sighted sometimes, For as much credit as I give them, it just seems to me like, guys, I know the Order 1886 had its issues and it didn't review very well, but there's mass potential here. Like, just huge potential for what I think could have been one of Sony's biggest franchises. And hearing the plans and the ambition that, Ready at Dawn had for the sequel, and, hearing them just kind of come out and talk about it, because I guess they're allowed to now. And I think Ready at Dawn was even shut down ultimately. It's sad, man. It is. And, it's one of these things where, you move on. It's never going to happen. This game exists, during the PS4 cycle, and that's it. But I don't know, man. Maybe Sony should seriously consider trying to do something here, because this sounds amazing, right? Like, getting a much bigger sequel. I mean, they're saying they mapped out the Order 1891, the Order 1899. I mean, it sounds so awesome, dude. I don't know. I just wanted to cover this and, have an excuse to talk about this game again. But we're going to move on to the next topic, which is some not so great news for HBO's The Last of Us Season 2, being reported by Push Square. They say the finale to Season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us was watched by half of the people who tuned in to watch the conclusion to Season 1. According to the Wrap, the closing episode attracted just 3.7 million cross-platform viewers, compared to the 8.2 million its predecessor achieved. However, there is a crucial caveat here. The episode aired during the long holiday weekend. HBO says that it's expecting the viewership to grow significantly over the coming days, and that Season 2 has attracted nearly 37 million viewers globally per episode, which apparently is more than Season 1, which is, I would say, an important thing to note, certainly. But yeah, I just wanted to cover this because, well, we covered everything regarding The Last of Us Season 1, and so if you're wondering, like, how Season 2 is faring, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, even as somebody who's not a big fan of the story of The Last of Us Part 2, I think Season 2 for HBO is just not good. Like, they changed way too much, and Ellie's character is just not even remotely close to the actual Ellie in Part 2. It's very strange, some of the decisions they made with Season 2 for HBO. But yeah, just figured I would let you guys know about that. But moving on to the final topic of the video, apparently Hellblade 2 will be getting a physical PS5 version. So this is being reported by VGC. Xbox and Ninja Theory's Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is finally getting a physical version, coinciding with its upcoming PlayStation 5 port. When it first released on Xbox and PC last year, Hellblade 2 was available only as a digital download, costing $50. Now, following Hellblade 2's PS5 announcement last week, ratings board ESRB has listed a version of Senua's Saga with physical games firm Limited Run Games as the publisher, with PS5 and Xbox Series listed as formats. A second ESRB listing suggests Limited Run is planning physical versions of the original Hellblade for the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, I have seen some people disappointed that this is the way Microsoft is choosing to go about it, and I just don't quite understand why they're doing it this way. I mean, it's better than nothing, you know. A lot of people don't like limited run games for one reason or another, but yeah, if you are somebody who's interested in trying to secure some kind of physical copy of Hellblade 2 for PS5 or Xbox, apparently it will be available. I'm assuming it's going to be limited quantities, so yeah, just keep your eye out for that. But that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.